What is surprising are the sheer number of operations being conducted and how we do not know how effective it truly is. Considering the amount of sensitive information received through such operations, we may never know how effective black bag operations are, but how expansive they are. These black bag operations are one of the many tools the CIA, ever expanding toolkit. However, they have become a significant tool, and just by how often it has been utilized, particularly after 9/11, it is an expanding operation that has been shown to be unprecedented in cooperation between the two rivals with no signs of scaling back. Moving on to our next story in the news. The Texas School District drops the embattled RFID student IDs and opts for tons of cameras instead. The Northside Independent School District, the NISD of Texas, best known for being sued by a student over its mandatory RFID card policy, is dropping the technology that originally landed it in the courtroom. These chip student ID cards were deployed to track students in hoping of bumping up the district's attendance numbers, thus increasing its share of funding tied to daily attendance, despite the courts deciding in its favor, declaring the cards don't violate the students' privacy and right of religion. The district has decided to abandon the RFID tracking system. Apparently, the technology wasn't quite a attendance silver bullet the administration thought it would be. There's been an earthquake in China, and there's been an earthquake in New Zealand. And New Zealanders ran screaming from buildings in Wellington yesterday, and this was on the 21st of this month, which was yesterday, as a magnitude 6.5 earthquake blew out windows and caused parts of the city port to slide into the sea. That's interesting. There was a landslide of the part of the city into the sea. The earthquake struck at 5:09 p.m., which was in the evening at local time, and was centered offshore, about 35 miles southwest of the capital city at a depth of 14 kilometers. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, it was New Zealand's biggest quake since the magnitude of 6.3 that killed 185 people in the South Island of Christchurch 2 years ago, and the strongest to hit the central region of the country since 1942. The Geological National Society science seismologist John Risto said, "There's an 8% chance of another magnitude 6 event or larger in the next 24 hours and 20% over the next several days." No deaths have been reported. Large quake can cause increased stress or decreased stress on neighboring faults, and that's what's being looked at closely. The powerful shake lasted for 20 seconds. It threw goods from the shelves, caused people to run from the buildings into the streets, and 4 people were hospitalized, but there were no reports of any fatalities. Moving on to another story, Newt Gingrich is in the news, and Gingrich has gone on record as saying that gangs have increased by 40% since Obama was elected. Obama came out of Chicago politics, and it's the land of Al Capone, and it's the land of the labor unions, and it's where and it's where Jimmy Hoffa came from and disappeared, and now his son is in a high office in Chicago, and this is where Rahm Emanuel is mayor, and this is where Obama came from. So Newt Gingrich says this fits perfectly in what I was going to say earlier. You have a congressman, and I respect Bobby Rush. You have a congressman who represents the most violent city in America. And you got to realize too that Chicago has the most stringent gun control laws in America. But yet, on any given weekend, there's about 20 people that are murdered each week because of gunplay. You have a congressman who represents the city in which over 500 people were killed last year. That goes in line with what I just mentioned. 74% of them are African American. You have a congressman who represents the city, which is over 80% of the killings, according to police, and they're by gangs, and gangs have increased. He says, let me finish. He says, gangs have increased by 40% since this president was elected. There is no federal program to stop it. No one wants to have an honest conversation about it. And so you have a congressman whose own district is bleeding, who puts on a hoodie as a symbolic act, but he does anything about the gangs in his own district. And, to have dialogue that you can pick up on, you can go to the website for realclearpolitics.com, and you can see it there. You can see the video and listen to the video if you wish. But anyway, we're moving on to our next news story. Scientists in the news of science, and this is coming from Mail Online, the dailymail.com.uk. And scientists have discovered the brain's misery molecule, which affects stress, anxiety, and depression. Researchers have found a protein called CRF1 in the pituitary gland, and it triggers cells to release hormones linked with stress and anxiety. They now hope to create a drug which can block dysfunction. And they said that they have found the misery molecule believed to be responsible for all our feelings of stress and anxiety. And they said it could also be linked to depression. A team of Heptares Therapeutics, a medical company based in Hertfordshire, used one of the world's most powerful X-ray machines to study the brain's pituitary gland. And has long been known that the gland controls stress, depression, and anxiety by releasing stress chemicals. Now scientists have released the discovery that the response is triggered by the CRF1, which is found in the outer membranes of the pituitary cells. Fiona Marshall, chief science officer at Heptares, told the paper stress-related diseases such as depression and anxiety affect a quarter of adults each year, but what many people don't realize is that these conditions are controlled by proteins in the brain. One of them is CRF1. She added that now that they have worked out the structure of it and how it works, it could open up potential to design drugs to control it. So moving on to our next earthquake story. In Beijing, a strong earthquake shook an arid hilly farming area in northwest China, sparking landslides and destroyed and damaged thousands of mud and brick homes Monday, killing at least 75 people and injuring more than 400, the government said. The quakes near the city of Dingxi in Gansu province toppled brick walls and telephone poles, shattered mud and tile roof housing, and sent cascades of dirt and rocks sliding downhill that blocked roads and slowed rescue efforts by crews trying to reach the remote areas. Hospitals set up aid stations and parking lots to accommodate large numbers of the injured, while hundreds of paramilitary people's armed police fanned out to search for victims in the region of terraced farmlands about 1,200 kilometers or 760 miles west of Beijing. I was thrown off the couch while watching TV, one resident was quoted as saying by the website of the official People's Daily newspaper. It was only when I was on the ground I realized it was an earthquake, and when I couldn't reach my daughter on the phone, I began to be frightened, said the man, identified only by a surname too. In addition to 75 confirmed dead, there were 14 people missing and 459 injured, the Central Government China Earthquake Administration said. Okay, our next news, well, that concludes our news portion of the program today. As you can see, the Earth is in a state of chaos. We have chaos in the political arena. We have chaos in the religious arena. We have chaos in the national security. We have chaos in earthquakes. We have chaos in our weather patterns. We have chaos in social issues. I mean, I can just go on and on and on, but I won't. And much to everyone's pleasure, I will not go on. But these things have been prophesied in the Bible for years, and at the end of time, it will be mass confusion, and there will be chaos. And I will give you some verses to back up some of this. It says, and these are the words of Christ. These are the words of Jesus Christ, the Son of the living God. Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. Well, we have the Reverend Sun Young Moon. We have a bunch of other people. And just recently in the news, there was a man claiming to be Jesus Christ, and he had his girlfriend with him, who supposedly was Mary Magdalene. It says, many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Well, Hezbollah has been declared a terrorist group by the EU. And we all know that Syria is almost in the midst of a civil war, if not already. And it says, you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye not be troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise up against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, and pestilences, and earthquakes in divers places. What did we just, this is coming from Matthew chapter 24, verses 4, starting at verse 4, I'm reading from. And it says, and there will be pestilences and earthquakes in divers places. That's verse 7. All of these are the beginning of sorrows. So we are at the beginning of sorrows, at the end times. Then they shall deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my sake. Jesus warned his disciples, anyone coming after him, he said, if they hated him, they will hate you. The world will receive its own. The world will not recognize him, and they did not recognize him, and they joyfully and gleefully put him to death, thinking that that was the end of the matter. They didn't realize that they were crucifying the Son, the one and only begotten Son of the living God. And it says, you shall be delivered up to be afflicted, and they shall kill you, and you shall be hated for all nations, of all nations for my sake. And then shall many be offended. That means that you will be tempted to fall away because of the evil that has fallen upon you. You will start to question your own faith, and you will start to think that God doesn't really care. And it says, and many shall be afflicted and shall betray one another and shall hate one another. Well, that's going on right now. That's why the gangs are rising. That's why there's so much social upheaval. That's why the people are putting on hoodies, hating each other, even after justice, the justice system has served justice According to the evidence, we're still seeing where people